Hey guys, it's Matt here, and while 2023 keeps up the trend of giving us really awesome new games, my wallet keeps getting emptier, which is why the game I'm going to talk about today was such a relief for me. Warhammer is not an unknown franchise. The hugely popular tabletop war games have been around since 1983 and have since spawned several different spin-offs, as well as being represented in different forms of media like movies and of course video games. The part of Warhammer that takes center stage today is one of these spin-offs, the far into the future sci-fi space marine war epic that is Warhammer 40K, which despite being a spin-off has actually surpassed its bigger brother in popularity. Now if this all sounds like the most generic intro to a video I've ever written, almost like it's ripped straight from Wikipedia, that's because it is. Because I don't know shit about Warhammer, I've never played anything Warhammer related. But first of all, I'll do anything to make Henry Cavill finally respond to my fan mail, and playing Warhammer related stuff might do the trick. Second of all, I love both war games and hammers, so what could go wrong? And lastly, this game only costs like 20 bucks and it looks cool, so bite me hardcore Warhammer gatekeepers. So without boring you with any more details, here's some gameplay and my first impressions of the newly released Warhammer 40K Boltgun. Despite not knowing anything about Warhammer, there is more than enough reason to want to play Warhammer 40K Boltgun. If its low price tag didn't lure you in at first, then the welcome surprise that this game doesn't take up 90% of your hard drive might do. Right from the get-go, you just get the feeling that even if it does suck, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to sell a kidney to be able to afford it, installing the game goes faster than ripping a fart after eating baked beans, no shader optimization, no connectivity issues, no nothing. From the moment you buy it, it'll take less than 5 minutes before you're actually playing. And just like that, you're dropped right into the action. With the immense popularity of games like Doom 2016 and Wolfenstein The New Order, there seems to have been a massive spike in fast-paced, over-the-top shooters emerging in recent years. On top of that, many developers, especially in the indie scene, seem to prefer artistic visuals over realistic ones. The end result is an overwhelming amount of games that visually represent a callback to the fast-paced boomer shooters of the 1990s, while mechanically being as polished as a game that would come out today. Ultra Kill, Fashion Police Squad, and of course Warhammer 40K Boltgun. After a short introduction, of which you'll probably don't understand a lot if you don't know anything about Warhammer, you're pretty much thrown into the deep end. Basically, you're an ultramarine that crash landed on a planet which is crawling with hostile activity. In true 90s one-man army fashion, you use a plethora of weapons to exterminate every sort of resistance you'll encounter, only leaving a trail of red goo behind you. Throughout the gameplay there isn't much room for story, and long stretches of dialogue have to make way for completely optional one-liners and taunts, but that fits perfectly with the overall atmosphere of the game. The story that is here is presented in these nicely hand-drawn and fully voiced cutscenes in between the 3 chapters this game has, proving yet again that a good art direction is much more important than realistic graphics.
You should assume the situation to be extremely hostile.
In order to turn all the heretics you'll encounter into the earlier mentioned meat smoothies, you'll get a wide variety of weapons which will undoubtedly feel familiar to anyone who has ever played a shooter like this. Sure, here these archetypes are all presented as universe-accurate bolt guns, but in its core they're still just your starter weapon, your shotgun, your heavy machine gun and your energy weapon. But you know, if it ain't broke. What I liked about these weapons so far is that even when you get new weapons, the ones you already had don't suddenly become useless. The variety in enemies makes sure that at some point you need to use more powerful weapons, yet in between your starting chainsaw will still be incredibly useful. Though so far I've only played the first chapter, so it remains to be seen if this trend continues throughout the whole game. At first you'll need to find your way around all these new weapons and enemies, and because of that, the gameplay might feel a bit too much of the same. But you'll quickly realize that every situation asks for a specific weapon. If you stick to just one weapon all the time, you'll have a lot more trouble with certain parts in the game, as well as that the game wouldn't be half as enjoyable. But as soon as you'll get the hang of things, you start feeling like an invincible killing machine, which is exactly how you should feel in a game like this. At this point you've seen it already, but one of the most striking things in the game is its art style. Going for that grainy 90s charm, combining 3D environments with 2D sprites, this game looks and feels like anything you'd play 30 years ago, yet at the same time you'll see and feel a sense of refinement that can only be possible with modern day hardware. There's a reason why this sort of game has seen an enormous spike in popularity over the past few years. It's because the overall atmosphere of a good 90s boomer shooter is translated best in grainy pixelated corridors, yet when you go back to those games, they're definitely showing their age. These sorts of games are the perfect middle ground, with all the modern day mechanics you'd come to expect in a shooter being implemented seamlessly. Warhammer 40K has an incredibly interesting world with several different sci-fi themes being combined, which means that one moment you'll be running through Gothic-inspired cathedrals, while one mission later you'll make your way along huge artillery batteries, followed up by scientific or alien-looking environments. It all makes sure that there is more than enough variety throughout your playthrough and keeps things interesting to look at. I'm pretty sure that Warhammer 40K Boltgun is an insanely enjoyable game to play when you're a hardcore fan of this franchise. Throughout these first few hours I've already encountered several things of which I thought to myself, that must have been a reference to something. As I've said before, I really don't know anything about this franchise, but despite that, I'm really enjoying the game. I think one of the most positive things I can say about the game so far is that even if you're not a fan of this franchise, this is still just a very good first-person shooter. Even without understanding all the references, lore and story, you can still just mindlessly shoot your way through a visually stunning world with a large variety of enemies to turn into red mist. So far it has been some of the most fun I've had in video games this year, and I think that for many people this could be a nice gateway into the world of Warhammer, while it will also please the already existing fans of both this franchise and first-person shooters. Now, if you'll excuse me, I still have some wars to hammer for the Emperor or something. I don't know. Thanks for watching. Have you played Warhammer 40K Boltgun already? If so, let me know what you think of it so far, or let me know what you think of the video. Consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel if you like my content. And for now, I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!